Okay, it's live. Okay, first of all, welcome everyone. And I want to thank Karon Lee and Eleni and Naomi, Karon Lee for today, for being such amazing team. So couldn't do it without you. And thank you so much. And it's on the schus of Karon Lee that we have Rav Dov Ber Cohen today. So we have to thank her. So I'd like to welcome properly Rav Dov Ber Cohen. He grew up in London and studied philosophy at Manchester University. He lived in Asia for 6 years, studying, practicing Eastern paths to self-actualization and purpose. At 29, he went to Israel and walked the length of Israel in 40 days and connected to Judaism. He spent several years studying yeshiva, got smicha, and went on to lead several trips to Thailand, India, Peru, and Nicaragua for young Jewish professionals. He lectures for Aish HaTorah in Jerusalem and has created his own course called Living in Tune, Authentic Jewish Mindfulness, and Bezrat Hashem will share it on the WhatsApp group. Rav Dov Ber is also the author of Mastering Life, a unique guidebook to Jewish Enlightenment and the essential teachings that lays out the foundational wisdom for creating a great life. He is a sought-after speaker and motivational coach in the above modalities. He lives in Jerusalem with his holy and talented wife and wonderful children. I tell you, every time I read a bio, I'm just like, wow, look at Hashem's children. Okay, I'm putting myself off. Rabbi, it's yours.
Hi, thank you so much. I was actually the opposite of me. I just logged on a few minutes ago and I saw a whole group of holy Jewish women saying Tehillim, and that I could feel Kedusha pouring out of the computer. So I was like I'm a bit humbled to be able to speak to this Teshuva group of people. And our sages say that really it's through the woman that redemption comes. I was actually last November, the mother of one of the hostages, unfortunately, Agam Bat Merav, she's still a hostage. Maybe part of the schos of this shir can go to her and the rest of the hostages. But her mother was on the roof of Aish, opposite the Kotel, and she said to me, Rabbi, pray for us. We need help. The whole Jewish people need help. And I looked at her and I said, it's really, I will, but it's the other way around. We need the women. It's the Jewish women who are bring the holiness and the Kedusha and the redemption. So here we are. It's an amazing point of the year. This time next week, some of us will be standing in shul, and Atem Nitzavim, Hayom Kolchem Lifnei Hashem Elokechem. We're going to be standing, as our sages teach us, that this week's Parsha, Nitzavim, is really talking about Rosh Hashanah. And we're standing in front of Hashem, Lifnei Hashem Elokechem. And really that's the essence of Teshuva. Everyone knows that what does Teshuva really mean? Teshuva means to be coming back to a palpable sense that we are standing in the presence of our loving Father and our caring King, Avinu Malkeinu. And I was just speaking to a group of young girls in the seminary, and I was talking about Elul, and I said, how do you feel? You're feeling about Elul and Rosh Hashanah, and one word that came up was daunting. It's very daunting. And I was so sad to hear that, because really it's not meant to be daunting. Teshuva itself is just meant to be very sweet, and it doesn't take so much. I think lots of people think that Teshuva is about, I have to fix all my deeds, I have to fix my character traits, I have to get up earlier, I have to say more Tehillim, I have to go to the gym, there's so much stuff I have to do, and that's very daunting. But that's not what Teshuva is. Teshuva is returning to a feeling of standing personally and essentially and palpably with Hashem, that Hashem is a real essence in my life, and that just takes a moment. Just takes one moment. I heard that Elul is Rosh Tevot, Efshar litkayem v'la'amod lefanecha. Efshar litkayem v'la'amod lefanecha. I am able to exist and stand in front of you. And we say in Asher Yatzal, after we go to the bathroom, we say, if any part of my body was lacking or broken in any way, it would be impossible to be in God's presence if if anything was wrong. But I think the teaching of Elul is even if I'm not perfect, even if I'm not a tzaddik, that I can stand in front of Hashem and Hashem accepts me. They say, Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem. We're standing kulchem, and obviously it means everyone, all the Jews, but it also means the whole of you. All of you. You don't need to be a tzaddik, a tzaddiket. You don't need to be perfect to be standing in front of Hashem. Hashem accepts us how we are. And I think this is really what Rosh Hashanah, we're going to be going into Rosh Hashanah, and we're going to be standing how we are. We haven't been through Yom Kippur yet. Everyone always asks the question, why do we have Rosh Hashanah, the Judgment Day, and then we have Yom Kippur afterwards when we clean ourselves up? Surely we should clean ourselves up first, and then we should stand in front of Hashem in judgment. But there are many answers to that question, but it just occurred to me that this answer is because Hashem's saying to us, you don't need to be fully clean to stand in front of me. You just have to yearn for it. You just have to want it. As soon as you say, I want to stand in front of you, I want to have a relationship with you, I want to return to you, then I'll accept you how you are. Like when a child leaves home, goes off the derech, goes far away and does things he shouldn't. As soon as he says, I just want to come home, there's a knock on the door. And the Abba and the Imma, they open the door. They're not like, no, you can't come in. They're like, we've been waiting. Come home. And then after they come home, then yes, they need to work on their traits and they need to correct their ways. But tshuva is a moment of yearning, a moment of ratzon, of being close to Hashem. Actually, I noticed in this week's Parsha, Rashi says, when it says, Atem nitzavim, it says that after they heard all the difficult things that can happen when we're not connected to our soul, when we're in last week's Parsha, we heard the klalot, which obviously Hashem is not trying to punish us. He just says the consequence of being disconnected from your soul is that not good things happen. So they said to Moshe, Mi achol la'amod be'elu? Who can stand up to all these things that are going to happen? So Moshe lefaisam. Moshe started to say, it's okay. Don't worry. Atem nitzavim hayom. You are still standing today. However bad you've been, harbe hichastem lemakom. Even when you make Hashem upset, Hashem's not going to wipe you out. V'hari atem kayamim lefanav. You're still standing in front of Hashem. We're still here. We've done all the things. So it's the opposite of daunting. It's just, I want to be here. I want the relationship. It's not meant to be hard. Hashem just wants the relationship. And so we have to understand Efshal is kayam lamod in front of Hashem just as we are. And we're going, tshuva means that we're returning, and returning means that we were there before. It's not a new thing. It's our essence. We're going back. We don't have to create something. We just have to reveal. In fact, they say that the word for to progress, to move forward in Hebrew, lihitkadem, it comes from the shoresh of the word lihitkadem is kodem. And kodem means before. So I'm moving forward, but to what used to be before, Began Eden, Mikedem. We're going back to Gan Eden. We all know that the first Rosh Hashanah was in Gan Eden, when Adam and Chava, they were created. And what happened in Gan Eden? V'yipach ba'apo nishmat chayim. Adam and Chava, they were created. V'yipach ba'apo. Hashem blew the essence of their soul into them. And it's really their life force. And even before that, we're coming up on Shabbos, we're coming up to Kaf Hei Elul, the 25th of Elul, which is the creation of the universe, the creation of the world. When Hashem says, we're gonna start again. And the creation of the universe is the beginning of the relationship. The relationship. Hashem created an other in order to have relationship. So that's really the purpose of the creation, is that we can relate, the creation can relate to the creator. So Rabbi Nachman really breaks it down all into talking about the breath. The breath is the life force of everything. This is in Likutei Moharan Chet. He says, Al yedei bechinat haneshima, through the principle of breath. And obviously we all know that neshima, breath, is related to the word neshama, your soul. Shehu haruach hachayim, your breath is your life force. It's your spirit. It's what's keeping you alive. Nivra ha'olam. Hashem created the whole universe with his life force. As it says in Tehillim, Lamed Gimel, Uvaruach piv kol tzava'am, and through the spirit of your mouth, where everything was created. It's an expression of God's vitality and life force, the whole universe. And he goes on, V'gam kein chiyas ha'adam, also the vitality, the life force of Adam, of humans. Chiyas ha'adam hu neshima, because your life force is your breath. As it says in Bereshis, it says that Hashem blew from his essence. The Baal HaTanya actually says the difference between the universe and the neshama is the universe was created with the ruach piv, through speech. And with speech, you also need breath. If you're out of breath, you can't speak. But the neshama wasn't made through speech. The neshama was blown through the breath of Hashem. And your breath is much more an essential part of who you are. You can speak all day. Well, I can speak all day, but you can't breathe out all day. It's more essentially who you are. So your neshama is just a pure, finite aspect, manifestation, expression of God's infinite essence. That's what the soul is. So what Teshuva means is just going back to Gan Eden, going back to our life force. What's really keeping us alive at every moment. I actually got to experience this in a very real way, because my wife and I, we had a son born 3 months early. He was born on the first day of the 27th week. And he was in an incubator and he had a respirator. His lungs weren't developed enough to breathe, and his brain wasn't developed enough to tell his lungs to breathe. So he's in the respirator, and I was sitting there and I was just watching this machine literally breathing my child. And every breath, I could just see his lungs expanded a little bit and then breathe out. And I was watching my child being breathed. He wasn't breathing. He was being breathed by this machine, and every breath that he took in was literally life gushing back into him. Obviously, we know one day we'll take a breath in and a breath out, and if we don't breathe in again, that's going to be our last breath. So in a very real way, when you're watching your baby in an incubator, every single breath we take is really vitality. It is our life force. And we take about 22,000 breaths a day. So our sages teach, maybe by focusing and concentrating just on the breath itself, that's how we can reconnect just to our intrinsic, essential life force. I work with lots of people who are converting, and I say to them, when you go to the mikveh, I actually have a student that she went to the mikveh yesterday. She just converted, and she came back into the seminary, and she was ecstatic. And I told her many months ago, when you go to the mikveh, don't just get in and get out and, okay, I'm Jewish. You go under the water and you stay under the water for a little while. You hold your breath. And then when you come out of the water and you take that first breath as a Jew, feel your life force, your neshama literally coming into you. And now you're a whole new entity. You're a whole new spiritual entity. You were born. So really every breath we have is the opportunity to be born again, to feel connected, to feel vitality and life. Every breath every neshima is Teshuva. Every neshima can be taking us back to Hashem. And there's really two practical main ways that this plays itself out. And it's because the neshima, the breath, is in the present moment. It brings us to focus on our breath, especially coming through our nose. It says, Yepach ba'apav. He blew it into his nose. So Jewish wisdom teaches that breathing through your nose is what connects you to your more spiritual. Ruach Hapeinu, Mashiach Hashem. It's the Ruach Hapeinu, the life force, the spirit of our nose that connects us to Hashem. So it brings us into the present moment. And I worked out this year that what I think it means is, what is an Avera? An Avera is something that's taking us away from presence. Something that's sort of taking us away from God consciousness. we're meant to feel that we are lefanav. We are in front of Hashem. We are experiencing Hashem in a pure state. So every time we do an avera, it means we're moving away. We're crossing over. We're not being, when we have bad midot, or when we say things we shouldn't say, when we do something that isn't representative of our neshama, then, and Rabbi Nachman speaks about this as well, our neshima comes from either good, we have either good vitality, or we can get vitality from not so good forces. So every time we do things that aren't connected to our neshima, we're moving far from Hashem, and that's why it's called an avera. And tshuva means to return to Hashem's presence. So the most simple way is to return to our breath. It's very simple. It doesn't need to be daunting. Once we return to our breath, we step away from our mind. And our mind is really the major thing that's getting in the way of our connection to joy, to happiness, to love, to connection with Hashem. Our mind by definition really is in the past and the future. We're regretting and we're planning and we're worrying and we're doubting and we feel guilty. So the mind almost by definition is in the past or the future, whereas the breath brings us deeply into the present moment. And in the present moment, at least we have something called yeshuva das. Yeshuva das means to settle our mind. And in a place of settling our mind, we can then go to a place beyond our mind. We can go to presence. We know that Hashem's name, Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, is a Yud is often used in Hebrew grammar to mean continuous, and Hey and Vav and Hey is Hoveh, which means the present moment. So Hashem's name in its essence itself is the continuous present. So we need to meet Hashem now and here. It's the only place we can meet Hashem, not in the future, not in the past. So our mind being in the future and the past is actually pulling us away from lefanav. It's all about lefanecha. Efshar liskayem v'la'amod lefanecha. But it has to be through my breath. The Zohar says that leis machshava tfisa beh klal, no thought can grasp Hashem. Thought can't grasp Hashem. And in a simple meaning, that just means because Hashem is infinite and we are finite, we just can't think beyond time and space, and Hashem is beyond time and space. But the deeper meaning is this, that thought is past and future and judging and comparing, and you can't get that. I spent 6 years in the East doing lots of meditation, 10-day silent meditation retreats. And I made up a Zen poem when I first heard the idea, Leis machshava tfisa beh, no thought can grasp Hashem. It's just with a little different punctuation. It says, Leis machshava tfisa beh. Leis machshava means no thought, tfisa beh. Then we can grasp Hashem. We can be standing in front of Hashem when we get to this state of no thought. And how do you get to the state of no thought? It's through coming deeply, deeply into the present moment, deeply into your breath. And all of our difficulties and challenges and pain and even all our bad midot and everything we ever do wrong is through the mind, through the Yetzer Hara. This is one of my favorite Rashis. I'm going to get the Chumash out. I should know it Baal Peh, but Rashi says in Shemot, Moshe is going to say to the Jewish people, I'm taking you out of Egypt. I've come, Hashem sent me to take you out of Egypt. And the Torah says, this is in Shemot, chapter 6, verse 9, V'lo shamu al Moshe mikoytze ruach. The Jewish people in Egypt, they didn't listen to Moshe. Why? Because of koytze ruach. They had a shortening of their spirit, of their life force. They were so constricted and so beaten down. And Rashi says, koytze ruach, kol mishehu metzal. Anyone who's suffering, anyone who is limited, anyone who is constricted, rucho v'neshimato ketzara. His spirit and his breath is short. Ve'eino yachol la'arich b'neshimato. And he can't just take deep breaths. Now, Rashi wasn't a Buddhist monk. Rashi was a holy Jew, a Talmud Chacham. He was Rashi. So Rashi is saying that why are we in Tzal? Why are we in Mitzrayim? Why are we in limitation? Because we can't breathe deeply. And the answer to freedom from our mind and from our limitations is just to take deep breaths. It's really that simple. If we can just stop and take some deep breaths, brings ourselves deeply, deeply into the present moment. And it's not a way of repressing my issues. It means when I can be living from a deeper and a calmer place within myself, then I can look at my things and work on my character traits. There's still all the work to do afterwards, but Teshuva is coming back to the present. Teshuva is coming back to the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey, to Hashem here and now. And yes, from that place, then I can do all the work that I need to do. But we're not doing Teshuva on Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah, we're just standing in front of Hashem. That's, if you just have one moment of standing deeply in front of Hashem, opening your heart on Rosh Hashanah, then you had an amazing Rosh Hashanah. That's what we need to do. Lots of the girls were saying to me, there's so much. The machzor, pages and pages of words and writing. And I said to them, look, firstly, you should take it out now and go through it and underline some psukim that you particularly connect to. But really, put it down if you want to. Close the machzor and open your heart. That's what Hashem wants here. He doesn't need you to say lots and lots and lots of words and feel you're going to be judged. You're not judged on how many words you're saying. And you're not judged. And by the way, it's got nothing to do with the past year either. You're not judged on the past word, on the past year. You're judged on how much you want to be standing in front of Hashem. I want you to be the king. You're judged on your ratzon. So for me, basically, this is a daily exercise, but at least on Rosh Hashanah, just keep going back to your breath. Keep going back to your breath. The very first breath when you wake up in the morning, that very first breath that you take, at that point, that really is a rebirth. They say that's when your neshama comes back into your body. So that first neshima of consciousness, you are literally brand new, a completely new being, born again, literally born again. But then your mind kicks in, can't believe I did that last night, I've got so much to do today. If you can try and make that first breath long and deep, and when the mind starts trying to get in, just take a few more deep breaths. And that's why my Rebbe, Bilvavi, the author of Bilvavi, he says the first thing we say in the morning is Maide Ani. And everyone thinks, and it does, everyone thinks that we start the day with gratitude. I'm grateful, it's a good way to start the day. But my Rebbe says it's deeper. Maide Ani means I acknowledge myself. Maide Ani, there's a me. There's a pure me, not my roles. I'm a mother and I'm a wife and that's not you. There's a pure Ani, and the Ani, once you can tap into that place of essential Mada Ani, then you can say Lefanecha. Only once you connect to that place, Maide Ani, Lefanecha, and then you can feel I'm actually standing in God's presence. Because as we said before, if we're not living in line with our presence and our essence, then we're not really standing in front of Hashem, or we're not tapping into that. Maida, if we could just say those first three words of the day with that kavana, it would change our lives. That would be a moment of tshuva, and you'd be completely new, just completely new every second. And then when you get up and your mind starts going again, got so much to do, can't believe that, I'm this, and judging yourself, and I'm not there, and I'm dodgy. All you need to do is have another breath, and you're reborn, you're born again. That's a new breath. Breathing out, and very important, breathe out. Let out all your breath. Rabbi Nachman speaks a lot about anacha, to sigh, to really release everything, to elongate that breath even more than usual. And then when you feel your breath coming back in, just feel I'm new again. I'm new. And then your mind will come back in, and that's okay. And then you get your breath back in. So it's this constant flow, ratza vashav, running and returning. As we go, we get into the called moichen, we get into a constricted consciousness, which is important sometimes, by the way. We need to get things done in the world. But we also always need to expand. And also just generally to expand physically is very healthy. You should literally be breathing in quite often to expand your whole, even your physical body, your physiology. Once you can expand your physiology, then you feel more open. And they say that that's why the shofar itself, it starts with a small hole, and then it expands into a much bigger hole to say, my breath, my connection to Hashem, I'm starting small, but I'm coming big. I'm going to expand my consciousness. So that's really the first idea of the breath. Is very simple. It's bringing me into the present moment. But then it's taking me, the second idea is it's taking me deeper into my ani. It's taking me into my pure, essential, connected and loving self, without all of the judgments and the tzal, the pain and the issues. It's the part of our soul where it never needs to do tshuva. Because no matter what you ever did, however bad it might have been, you didn't affect your neshama. Your neshama is always perfect. It's always pure. It's like you put mud on it. You put paint on your neshama. But then you can, this is what tshuva is. You're just peeling away the paint. You're washing away the mud. You never damage the neshama. So your breath really takes you all the four aspects of your being, physical and emotional and mental and spiritual. The one thing that links these four levels of who you are, your consciousness of who you are, is your breath. Your breathing deeply is physically the most healthy thing for you, to get enough oxygen. Most people aren't getting enough oxygen, not breathing deeply enough, not breathing out enough. If you don't breathe out fully, then there's some stale air left in your lungs. So we're not getting the oxygen we need. To have emotional balance really means to not repress your emotions, but not drown in them, to be able to be present with your emotion and feel that emotion. Say, okay, this is how I feel now, and your breath brings you into your present. Mental, your breath, once again, it calms your mind down. There's a Jewish meditation technique called hashkata, comes from the word sheket, and that's just focusing on your breath, quieting your mind down. And then obviously spiritually, is that your neshima is deeply connecting you to your neshama. So my wife often uses she gives a mashal. She says, in the ocean, in the sea, you have very big waves. Sometimes there's thunder and there's lightning and it's a storm, crashing rain, very noisy. But if you go under the water of the sea, then it's calm and it's quiet. No matter how much chaos there is on the surface level, under the waves, it's always calm and quiet. So we need to understand that all of our stuff and our issues and our judgments and our worries and our doubts and our fears and all of that, it's on a very surface level of who we are. So your breath takes you deeper. You're basically scuba diving into yourself. Scuba diving into my neshama. That's what your breath is doing. I'm just going to a deeper place. And that means when I come back out again, because I can't stay in that place, but I can function from a much calmer place. Function from I'm living life from a panimiut, a deeper place within myself, so I don't get so caught up so quickly. I don't get upset so quickly, because I'm a little bit further away from my ego stuff. I'm not identifying with those things, so I'm much more calm. I'm living in that place, and that's tshuva. So every breath is every time you tap into your breath and you connect back to your vitality. Are you living with vitality? That's called tshuva, coming back to Hashem all the time. And eventually we say every morning, Kol hanshama tedhalelka. Every soul will praise you. And the Midrash, Bereshit Rabbah, says, Al kol neshima neshima tzarich lefayes et baro. With every single breath, we should be praising Hashem. I actually tried this once. It's crazy. I sat for a few minutes and I said, every single time I take a breath in, I'm going to praise Hashem. So I took a breath and I was like, wow, I'm alive. That's crazy. I breathed out and I did it again. Wow. And it got so like intensely high, I had to kind of stop doing it. But with every neshima, we've got this opportunity to connect back to Hashem. And I think that's what the shofar is. They say, Hashem v'yipach ba'apav nishmat chaim. Hashem blew your soul into you. So the shofar is blowing it back. It's saying, okay, so what am I going to do with my neshama? And it's not all about me. I'm going to use my neshama. I'm giving it back to you. I bought my daughter rollerblades for her birthday. And she was very excited, and she put on the rollerblades and she said, Abba, what can I get for you? So I was like, great, go to the bookshelf. I have my chumash. So she very excitedly went to the bookshelf, got the chumash, and I thought, that's amazing. She just used the gift that I gave her to serve me. And it was a beautiful idea. So Hashem gave us the gift of life, the gift of neshima, the gift of neshama, and to say, Hashem, I want to use that. I want to give that back to you. I could just talk about this forever, but just to sum up, Teshuva shouldn't be daunting, needn't be daunting. And it's a constant thing. It's a momentary thing. Every conscious breath, that's Teshuva. Every time we take a conscious breath, we're coming and we're feeling I'm standing in front of Hashem. That's what Teshuva is. And then yes, we have to work on our character traits, but Hashem accepts us. Hashem loves us as we are. I can. Even if I'm a little bit broken, even if I'm not perfect, and I just want that. Hashem, we should all be zeicher to tap into the sweetness and the depth and the chilled out. This is my big thing. Everyone's over anxious. They're like, oh, there's so much to do. And I'm like, it's okay. Just take a deep breath. Take a deep breath, come out, let go, and come in and be with Hashem. Zod Hashem for us and for the whole Jewish people. And Hashem should give us a much better year next year.
Amen. Amen. Wow. I just
before I open it
up to questions, which I'm going to do, I just, first of all, that was incredible. Rabbi, thank you so much. If you have a few minutes to go a little bit deeper in the understanding of moda'ani, how we have to connect to moda'ani, that would be amazing. And, I was thinking about it also. It's so interesting because you talked about yeshuva das and the breath. When you ever look, which most of us are stressed these days, you ever look at the concept of stress, of anxiety, you lose your yeshuva das and you lose your breath, right? You can't breathe. You're not taking in the oxygen, right? You're not taking in the oxygen.
Yeah, that's the rest.
And you have and you lose your yeshuva das. Yeah. It's such an interesting, and the way what I loved what you said, which was so unbelievable, which for me was so wow, is you said that your mind is in the past and in the present. Your mind is what keeps you in the past and makes you fearful of the present, right? Keeps you in the limited beliefs of the past, or your identification of your issues of the past and the fear of the future. But your breath brings you to the moment. And that was just so, so really beautifully.
Rabbi Nachman says that Masha ha'olam rachokim me Hashem yitbarach ve'eno miskarvim alav yitbarach rak machma she'en lehem yeshuva das. The only reason we're not close to Hashem and we don't feel Hashem always is because we don't have yeshuva das. And there's several meanings of that, but the basic meaning is we don't have peace of mind. We're just not present anymore. But with the moda'ani, this is a good meditation. Maybe one of you can lead a meditation. My Rebbe says that you should breathe in and breathe out and say the words ani kayam, or for a woman, ani kayamet. Ani kayamet, I exist. Or you can say it in English, I exist. So when you say the word I exist, who are you referring to? So if you say your name, well, that's not who you are. That's your name. And I'm a father. Well, that's not who you are. That's a role you're playing. So to deeply think about who am I referring to when I say ani kayemet? I exist. And then you can be maide ani. I acknowledge that there is a me beyond my car and my house and my clothes and my body and my talents and my emotions and my thoughts There's a me, there's a pure Elokai Neshama Shenatata B'Ta'arai. There's a pure me, there's the essential me, Maide Ani. I'm aware of the Ani, the underlying pure consciousness, and then we can be Lefanecha. Actually, my Rebbe says another thing. Says you should say Pesukim, say the Pesukim, and then breathe them back in. Amazing idea. So one of the main Pesukim we should be saying over and over again for the rest of our lives, but especially on Rosh Hashanah, is Lev Tahor Barali Elokim, Baruach Nachon Chadesh B'Kirbi. Lev to build me, create for me a pure heart, and give me the right spirit. So I see the letters coming out. Lev Tahor Barali Elokim. By the way, don't get too caught up in it. You can just have letters. You don't have to be spelt perfectly right. Lev Tahor Barali, and then I breathe back in, and I feel I'm breathing those letters back in, and it's becoming, the pasuk itself is becoming part of who I am. So Hashem, the word Hashem, by the way, is obviously closely related to the word Noshem, to breathe. Hashem and Neshima and Neshama, it's all part of the same idea that there's this pure essence, your vitality, your life force that we can connect to at any time. I made a video the other day, and I said the most important thing in your life is completely free and always available. And I was like, oh, it's your breath. Your breath is completely free. It's literally keeping you alive. But we know that our sages teach us what is life, what is chayim. Atem hadveikim b'Hashem Elokeichem chayim kulchem hayam. When we have a palpable relationship of standing in front of Hashem, that's called being alive. And the whole of Rosh Hashanah is all about chayim. All the inserts is Zachreinu l'chayim, Chavetz b'chayim, and Hashem opens up the books of life and death. So the books of life and death is spiritual life and death. What do you want? This week's parsha, B'chata b'chayim, choose life. And people say, well, who would ever choose death? Well, every time we stray from our neshama, from our neshima, it's a type of death. We're not living with our vitality, our life force. Every time we speak Lashon Hara, every time we put ourselves down. You're not allowed to put yourself down. That's choosing death, so to speak. I actually heard another beautiful teaching that when it says B'chata b'chayim, I put before you life and death, it says there's really two paths in Avodas Hashem. One of them not very healthy. It's called the path of death, which is I'm going to do my avodah because one day I'm going to die and there's going to be consequences. It's really yirat ha'onesh. I'm afraid of the consequences after I die. That's called the path of death, serving Hashem through the path of death. And then there's the path of chayim. And chayim is all about love. I want to do this, not because of reward and punishment, but because that's how I connect to Hashem, lefanecha today, lefanav. So it says, Hashem says, you have these two paths, and path of yira and ahava, b'chata b'chayim, choose life, do it for the right reason, do it because you want to have vitality and joy and love and connection, not because we're worried about judgment day, remembering that the judgment isn't on what you did, the judgment is, who do I want to be? I actually had this 18-year-old boy, he said to me, I just don't know who I am. I'm just trying to work out who I am. And I said to him, you know what? It's not so important who you are. Work out who you want to be and start working towards that. I guess at some point he's got to work out who he has been being up until now, but we don't define ourselves by the past. That's not what we do. And in fact, the whole Teshuva of Elul has got nothing to do with the past. That after Rosh Hashanah, when we get into the Aseret Yemei Teshuva and Yom Kippur, now we're looking at the past. Slach lanu, chatati. You're not allowed to say the word chatati on Rosh Hashanah. I just learned my Rosh Yeshiva says you're not allowed to say it. We say it in a funny way. And if you, in Avinu Malkeinu, we don't say chatanu lefanecha. There's nothing to do with that. So all of the shame and the remorse and stuff, that's for Yom Kippur. And if you start doing that really at the beginning of Elul, you're going to wear yourself out. So Elul is all about, I just want to stand in front of you. That's all I want. And then after I've now committed to the relationship and I feel I want to stand in front of Hashem, then I can say, okay, so this is where I messed up and help me clean that away. That's why Rosh Hashanah comes before Yom Kippur. Because I just got to say I'm invested in the relationship. And now I can fix what I messed up.
Wow. Chaya, you want to ask the rabbi a question? Go ahead, Chaya. You've been waiting. Chaya, you have to unmute.
Yes, sorry, I just wanted to make a comment. And I often think, I know there's so much about breath work, and what you're saying now is so beautiful and so helpful. I believe it'll help us all with Teshuva. That before Mashiach comes, it says that there's going to be great healing in the world. And it seems to me like such a beautiful, simple healing, that the breath itself, breath and water, they say, those two things have come to be the greatest healers. And what you're describing is really like, is everything with the breath itself. So I feel like it's a Mashiach thing, this new discovery about connecting to Hashem through breath. Thank you.
Yeah, well, as we said, we say Ruach HaPeinu Mashiach Hashem. So Mishalo Achanu. Ruach HaPeinu, the breath
Wow.
the breath of our nose. That is Mashiach. That
It
is
was
how
right there all the time, right? We're just seeing it now. Thank you.
Yeah, Wim Hof didn't come up with this stuff. We were doing this for
Right.
3,000 years.
I know, but it's interesting. I'm going to let Michal Liba ask the question, but it's interesting that we lost it on some way. We actually went into the intellectual aspects of Yiddishkeit, and we lost these aspects of Yiddishkeit, right? To some degree.
It was the trauma maybe of the last 100 years, no?
Yeah, that's my usual answer. They say, where is all this in Judaism? So I show them all the sources, and there are many, many sources. But we were trauma. We've been in exile, and we've been exiled from our breath. We've been exiled from our tradition, and we were just fighting to stay alive. You're living in some shtetl in Russia. You don't have the benefit of being able to do this. I just need to be alive. And then the yeshiva system became very intellectual and lost a little bit of that. But now we came back to Eretz Israel, where we can breathe properly. This is Eretz Israel, where we can breathe. So now we can start breathing again.
Wow. Michaliba, go ahead. Michaliba, you have to unmute.
Yes, hi. Okay, wow, wonderful. Thank you so much. It's so nice to see you. Naomi
So
and
nice to
Rabbi
see
Cohen.
you.
Oh, I know it's been a long time. Quick question is to get that felt sense of the ani. It's a hard, I mean, I hear what you're saying to just go into your breath, but like you said, we're so conditioned to be so intellectual about it. So I know that when I do try to do that breathing, I do try. I simply just have a really hard time feeling the ani. Like it's like I'm almost trying to always figure it out. When am I going to feel that felt sense? Where am I going to have that experience?
So that's going to be part of the problem. If you keep asking is it going to happen, that's preventing it from happening. So really what we do is there's two different types of meditate, well, many different types, but one is hitbonenut, which is contemplation, and really contemplating who is the me. So you could ask yourself the question, who am I? And your mind will say, I am my name. And you'll say, that's not who I am. Who am I? I am this. And through peeling away the layers, you can try and reveal the ani. But a much deeper and more direct way is just to keep saying, ani kayem. And don't expect anything. Well, what does it mean to exist? Do I want to exist? Do I deserve to exist? As soon as your mind starts doing its thing, just smile. What we tend to do is when we start to meditate, every time we get distracted, then we beat ourselves up. I can't do this. I'm so frustrated. When am I going to feel it? And that's just taking us further away. So really the main practice in meditation is when you notice that you've gone away from what you're meant to be focusing on, just smile and say, okay, you got me, but I'm coming back. And then you just start saying, ani kayem. Anika, not expecting. Anika, when you're saying the word ani, you're referring to your neshama, your pure neshama. Ani kayem. And just keep going with ani kayem. And if you do that for 5 minutes and nothing happens, that's okay. You tried. I actually ran a meditation thing once, and at the end, I did a 2-minute meditation. And a girl came up to me after and she said, Rabbi, I just can't meditate. I said, well, how many years have you been practicing? And she said, no, I just did your 2-minute thing. So I said, I can't play the violin. I picked up a violin for 2 minutes and I couldn't do it. So obviously you know the lesson, just ani kayem. My Rebbe also says there's another thing you can do, which is to say, I'm going deeper into myself. I'm going deeper into myself. But don't ask, am I going deeper into myself? Have I got deeper into myself? When will I be deeper in? And when that thought does come, just smile and come back to saying, I'm going deeper into my. And what happens is eventually you kind of become aware and you're like, oh, I'm deeper in myself. But don't get too excited because then you come up again. So just try and breathe into, I'm going deeper into myself. I have on Spotify, I have a series called the Inner Silence series. You look it up on Spotify, the Inner Silence series, and I think it's about 16 classes, really about my Rebbe's teaching about finding that inner place of peace. And then also
Okay.
the meditation course starting at the end of October. It's an 8-week
Oh,
course.
I'll share
just-
it. I'm going to share
Yeah.
that with the group.
Oh, wow,
First of all,
that's exciting.
Before we go into the next question, I just want to welcome Michaliba back. I feel like crying.
It's been a long time.
We haven't seen her in a while, and Baruch Hashem, she's coming back to herself and she's getting better. So we're also grateful to have you back, Michaliba, and we love
Good,
you.
you're getting back to yourself. That's Teshuva. That's what Teshuva is, coming back to yourself.
Right.
In a
Thank you
deeper
so
way than-
much.
So,
We love you.
Michaliba, do we still daven for you? Or not?
Yeah.
Yes,
Baruch
please
Hashem.
do.
Sarah, you want to ask the next question? Sarah,
Yes,
we have
yes,
2 more questions left, Rabbi,
Yeah.
and we'll let you go. Sarah, go ahead.
Good morning, Naomi. Thank you so much for putting this together. This is awesome. I look forward to it every single day the past 10 days that I know about this chat. And thank you, Rabbi Cohen. It was just amazing and it was very beautiful and touching. There's a lot of different breathing techniques that I'm a little bit confused about. There's I just wanted to know if you could maybe demonstrate one that is like something that we could practice as wives, mothers, and being working all the time. And of course, it's something that we need to practice in order to really get it. But I'm confused about different methods. Would you be able to just go through the techniques, please? And
Yeah, I get to give you an answer, and you're either going to love it or hate it. I feel that people overcomplicate it, and they said, well, when I breathe in, should I breathe in for 5, hold for 3, breathe out for 7? Should I do Ouija breathing, pranayama into my lungs, into my stomach? All right, no, just breathe in and out through your nose. However feels comfortable and good for you. So you're either going to like that answer or not, but I'm very much into mimut, into simplifying. And then maybe we could talk about different techniques. But I don't think breathing needs to have a technique. It needs to be through your nose, but whatever feels good. There's also one thing is just watching your breath naturally, how it's naturally coming in and going out. And the other one is more controlling your breath, to breathe a little bit deeper. So in general, we start by just watching the breath, how it is naturally. And then you can start breathing a bit deeper to come to a more present and deep place. When I was watching my baby in the incubator and I saw he was being breathed, I suddenly realized I'm also on an incubator. I'm on a divine incubator. Hashem is breathing me. And I'm just being breathed. Unless you're being conscious of your breath, you're not breathing. You're being breathed all the time. And then you can become conscious of being breathed. And then you can breathe consciously, which is to start controlling your breath.
this is beautiful. May I ask you, like, as far as someone like us being so busy all the time and our mind is very occupied and constantly is giving us another chore to do, and being able to sit down and really focus is very difficult and could be challenging. What do you say to us mothers that we live in a world of constantly being, forced to do more and more and more? What do you suggest that we could start this breathing techniques or breathing to start it out like 1 minute, 2 minutes? How does one gradually be conscious about?
I think Sarah, I think it's such an individual thing, right?
Well,
I think that
well, it is, but I feel that there is an answer that each individual can apply to themselves. So, for example, when you're brushing your teeth,
wow.
I hope you brush your teeth. Just stop breathing. Just breathe whilst you're brushing your teeth. And your mind will say, and I've got to now take that kid to school. And you'll say to your mind, never fight your mind, by the way. There's no point fighting it. As soon as you fight it, it wins. So when your mind comes in, say, hey, mind, thanks for coming. I'm just focusing on my breath now, and come back to focusing on your breath just for that 1 minute, 2 minutes whilst you're brushing your teeth. So you can link it to something you're doing anyway. If you're in the car on the way to pick your kids up, so focus on your breath for a minute. You're waiting at the traffic light for 1 minute. So focus on your breath for that minute. As soon as your mind kicks in, I've got this, just smile at your mind and say, okay, thanks for coming, but I'm just going to focus on my breath now. So link it to things that you are doing anyway. And then the next step would be to find 3 minutes during the day. The kids are out the house for 3 minutes. And before you look at your phone or check this and do that, give yourself 3 minutes and maybe put on some soft music and say, I'm just going to focus on my breath for 3 minutes. Just very tiny, small steps. And then throughout the day, whenever you're feeling a bit stressful, 1 deep breath. Just, basically, you want to start making your breath your first aid. Anytime you're feeling a bit stressed, overwhelmed, anything, you should immediately think breath. Come back to my breath. Center. I used to play a lot of tennis, and when you play tennis, you hit the ball, but then it's called a jump step, where you come back to your stance, and then from your stance, you go and take the next shot, and you come back to your stance. Also in martial arts. So that's what the breath is. It's just coming back and then going out. That's why actually this week's parsha, Nitzavim Vayelech, Nitzavim means to stand. Vayelech means to go. So we got to do both. You have to be able to stand in front of Hashem, and from standing in front of Hashem, then we can go out and interact with the world on a more conscious level.
Wow. Okay, Karon Lee. Karon Lee, you want to finish us off
Yes.
with your last question? Go ahead.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you, Rav. That was so beautiful. And you just practically always bring us back to our root and just how to breathe and what's important. And your Torah is so sweet and beautiful. Thank you. I wanted to just share, if you don't mind, just an image that came to me a few years ago on the breath. As you were saying, like that Hashem breathes into us. And so we're inhaling Hashem's breath. And then we hold it, and then we're exhaling our breath out to Hashem. So there's this constant, beautiful relationship we're in with Hashem if we focused on just the art of breathing. So we're giving out to Hashem, and He's giving back to us. And it becomes such a beautiful, calming way of reconnecting to Hashem. And one thing that like I've learned to do, which is beautiful, is to breathe in through the nose and just keep repeating, I love you, I love you, I love you, as if I'm breathing in Hashem. Then I hold that breath in my body saying, I thank you, I thank you. It's going throughout my whole body. And then I exhale, I trust you, I trust you, I trust you, because I'm exhaling all the anxiety or any negativity. And I find it very calming. And it just aligns with what you've been saying. So thank you. And yeah, just your thoughts on that.
Oh, that's fantastic. You're fantastic, because what we're saying is it's very important what messages you're sending to your system. So if you're sending the message to your system, I can't handle this, then that's what your system is going to manifest. If you're sending to your system, I trust you, Hashem, I trust you, Hashem, whilst coming to your breath, that's you're going to be your experience. So how you speak to yourself, everyone says that the biggest distance in the world is between your head and your heart. So what's in between your head and your heart is your mouth. How do you speak to your heart? And your heart isn't necessarily rational. You can't rationalize. You just have to keep repeating. It's going to be okay. If you're feeling anxious, just to be able to say, it's going to be okay. Come to your breath. It's going to be okay. And then your mind and your body will be like, it's not going to be okay. I can't handle it. And you just take a breath and you say, I hear that. It's going to be okay. We're not repressing that voice, but just soothing that part of us that feels scared and saying it's going to be okay. I trust Hashem. So definitely adding some holy words helps with our presence.
Rabbi, someone just asked just the last question. They wrote it. Can you review the piece about the shofar being small at one end and larger at the other? Would you mind just giving us a small synopsis of that?
It's just really saying that we start small and we expand. We start from a place of constricted consciousness, and when we connect to our breath and we give our breath out, we can come to a place of more expanded consciousness. There's a lot more to say about that, by the way.
But
Basically,
what's the connection
itself,
between, right? Go
the
ahead. Sorry.
neshama, the essence of reality is expansion and constriction. This is a whole course here, but your neshama actually itself expands and contracts, and your breath, inhale, exhale, and the tide, there's an ebb and a flow, and the moon, there's a wax and a wane. And the whole of the universe is movement. Hashem is still, really, called the Mamadaka. It's a still place, but the universe is like Hashem's breathing out. So we have to be able to, once again, it's called Ratzov Vashav. We have to go with the flow. Just go with the flow. So sometimes we feel small and we feel restricted, and it's okay because we're going to expand ourselves, but we can consciously choose to expand ourselves. Sometimes you breathe in, but you're going to breathe out at some point, to know that life is like that. There are ups and downs, there are highs and lows, to be able to just flow between those and know that whenever it gets low, it's going to come high again. I'd like to give you a whole class on shofar now.
Wow. Wow.
And I actually have to teach in Hanof in about half an hour.
Yeah. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you. This was really,
but I have an electric bike.
This was spectacular. Thank you so much. Please share all the stuff and I'll share it with the group.
Okay. And also my email address, dbcohen@aish.com. Anyone wants to reach out?
Thank you. This was amazing. Thank you so much. Spectacular, really.
Baruch Hashem.
Thank you. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. We will see each other tomorrow.